Hi everyone, welcome back to another Jakarta Tech Talk. I'm your host, Ludmila Muiña, and I'm here to introduce our guest speaker today, Bruno Sousa, who will be presenting about growing your position and salary beyond senior, Java, open source, and community. If you have any questions, please leave them in the Ask a Question tab or in the chat box. Thank you. Over to you, Bruno.
Okay, thanks so much. It's amazing to be here. I love the Jakarta Tech Talks. I watch them quite frequently, and it's an honor to be here with the Eclipse Foundation, and in this amazing discussion. And you know what, guys? I want to be here talking with you. I just sent an email to my list. Hopefully, you saw that. Some of you telling that I have no slides. Right? My point here is to help you move your career, move forward in your career. So I want you to tell me. So, say something in the chat. Don't put things on the question and answer thing, because it's gonna be harder for me to see it. But I want to see in the chat, right? So I already see here. Hey, John, already saying hello in the chat. Andres, hey Andres, good to see you. So I want you to say hello in the chat. And while you're doing this, tell me where you're from, where you're watching. You might want to tell me how many years of career do you have, right? Because I want you to know where the chat is, so we can have a conversation, right? And so, I'm waiting here. I know there's a little delay, right? But help me out. I want you to say hello in the chat. If you're watching this recorded, right? So I'm going to try to be this very interactive. So if you're watching this recorded and you don't have a chance to ask me questions, send me an email. And it's going to be great I'll answer your questions anyway over email. So I see David, right, good afternoon from Poland. So hey, David, how you doing, man? Yeah, so right now it's afternoon for me too, right, because I'm here in Lithuania, where in a couple of hours from now I'm going to be doing a presentation at the Vilnius Java group right here in Lithuania. And it's going to be an amazing conversation. I'm doing this tour around Europe, right? So actually, I said I was going to say no slides, right? But I have one. How about I do at least the map, right, for what I'm doing? So this is not really a slide, right? It's just like an image, right? So here's a little bit of the. All right. So here's a little bit of the place I'm going, right? The place I'm going. So I'm right now here in Lithuania, this one of the Baltic countries, and I already did Amsterdam and Utrecht for the JFall events. By the way, a shout out for the guys from JFall. They helped me out on this tour, right? So thanks so much, guys. And then I did Romania, right, on Cluj-Napoca. That's a Romanian city, actually close to where Dracula lives, right? Or used to live. And then now I'm here in Lithuania to have these conversations, right? I mean, and now I'm online here with you. Okay, so let me take a look here in the chat here, right? So, hey, lots of people here say, hey, Ken, from Sweden, right? Now retired, former software architect, folks in Jakarta here, right? Now I have a little too much time. Okay, that's great, Jen. So hopefully you have some interesting questions. Let's try to make your too much time something that you want to do, right? So whatever that is, right? So Andres is from Uruguay. So hey, man, watching from Lima, Peru, right? That's awesome, man. 27 years as a developer, 25 years with Java. So that's amazing, Andres. Andres is a good friend. We always talking back and forth. So great, Andres. And John is in West Coast of the U.S., right? A pleasure to meet all of you. That's great. 20 years as a software engineer, most which with Java. That's great. Okay, so here's what I want to hear from you guys. Because honestly, I want to be, as I said, I want to make this very interactive. I'm going to start for a little bit of a background here, just so you guys understand what you can do. But one thing that I want you to think about is what is the biggest dream that you have, right? So even Jen, that is retired, right? What is the biggest dream, right? So what do you want to accomplish still, right? What do you want to do? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to, visit your I don't know, your grandchildren, right? So what do you want to do, Jen? Think about the biggest dream that you have right now, right? And I love this, right? I love when this situation, Jen, is because it gets us to think that big dreams are usually not career dreams, right? Career is a good thing. I love talking about career. I love to discuss career. I love my career, right? So I love that we can do that. But to be very honest, there are larger dreams than career, right? For example, spending time with your grandkids, for example. I don't even know if Jen has grandkids, but spending time with grandkids might be just an amazing dream that's much, much more interesting than whatever career dream you might have, right? So think about the largest, the biggest career dream that you have. And this is and that's one thing I don't want you to tell me. You might want to tell me if you want to, right? But really, what I want you to think about is the second question, right? So now that you're thinking about the biggest career dream that you have, I want you to think about what is the biggest challenge, right? So why don't you have that dream yet? Why have you not achieved that big dream that you have? What's the challenge? What's the problem? What's preventing you from achieving that dream? That's what I want to hear. I want you to put on the chat what's preventing you, because my goal here is to help you solve, eliminate, bypass that particular problem that you're thinking about. It. So, put on the chat what is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now in terms of your career, right? In terms of achieving this big dream that you want, right? So I see Fabio here. Hey, Fabio. So that's Fabio Veloso, a good friend of mine. Fabio is assuming there's no true Fabio Veloso in the world, right? So Fabio is one of the founders of So Java, right? He's been around the Java world for 30 years now at least, or probably more. So hey, Fabio, so good to see you here. Fabio has just implemented this very, very cool solution. I think there's going to be a case study in the Jakarta EE website, right? So it's being done with Jakarta EE. That's amazing, right? So that's good. And so, hey, Leonidas says, hello from Poland, right? So, hey, Leonidas, that's good, man. And so, hey, ADL, very good to see you, right? So, come on, all of you guys, I want you to write things in the chat, right? I know, if you're watching this record, like, oh man, it's 10 minutes, nothing happened yet, right? Yes, the whole plan is to, I want to hear your questions and I want to have a conversation with you here. That's not a problem. So so Jen says, staying healthy and have a clear mind and keep the interest in software development, right? Why not open source, right? The other guys seem so smart. Okay, so that's a very, very good discussion, Jen. So we can start with that. And ADL saying, looking forward to see you in Lisbon. Awesome, ADL. Amazing. I'm going to be there next. So I travel to Lisbon tomorrow, right? I'm not going to be actually, ADL, if you can think about something, I'm going to be in Portugal, right, over the weekend. So if there's anything that we can do before the event in Lisbon, because the event in Lisbon is Tuesday, right? So I'll be in Portugal over the weekend. So if anyone that's there in Portugal want to do something, let me know. Send me an email. Contact Otávio Santana, right? So John says, a question, my career dream is to run my own agency. Okay, that's awesome. All right, so let me just quickly tell you a little bit here, because I wanna talk about this whole idea of growing beyond senior, right? And achieving all these amazing things we're gonna talk about. So just before, as a food for thought here, right? So first of all, the growing beyond senior, right? There are positions that allow you to grow beyond senior, right? And I think there's 5 paths for you to grow beyond senior. And very quickly, one is the path that we call the people path, right? There's the management. So you become a manager. If you become a manager, that's a beyond senior position. You get more autonomy, you get more responsibility, you get more flexibility on the things that you want to do, right? You get more impact, right? So lots of developers don't want to do this. They don't want to do the management path, right? The people path. That's okay, no problem. If you do want to do that, that's a great path, but you don't have to. The second path that I can see of growing beyond senior is when you go to what we call the technical path, or the tech path. And the technical path is when you grow as a technical person and you go beyond the senior position, right? So those positions are positions like staff, and then principal software developer or principal engineer. and then you come to distinguished, right? So those positions, staff, principal, distinguished, those are positions that are equivalent to management, director, and VP, right? So if you go to the people path, that's the path, manager, director, VP. But if you go to technical path, that's staff, principal, distinguished. Those are equivalent to manager, director, and VP. So that means that if you are a principal developer, for example, or a principal engineer, you have equivalent impact, equivalent salary, and equivalent responsibilities than a director have, but you don't have anyone under you. You don't manage anyone. You focus on the technology side, right? So those positions are amazing. Good thing, good things if you wanna do that, right? That's a great thing that you guys can do, right? So the third path, so that's the second path, right? The technical path. The third path, I call this the community path, right? Is that when you become a technical person inside a non-technical area of your company, right? So for example, you can be working with marketing, or you can be working with HR, you can be working with sales, right? So you're part of you're part of a non-technical area of your company, and you're the technical person, right? So those positions are positions like community manager, DevRel, evangelist, right? Those are positions where they're usually positions that you're supporting customers, you're bringing in new customers, you're doing the marketing or HR or sales activity as a technical person, right? Those positions are usually very, very good. I mean, they're amazing positions, by the way, right? They're usually lots and lots of autonomy, right? Why lots of autonomy? Because you are the only technical person, right? No one else in the department knows what you do, right? So you do whatever you want because it's very, very autonomous position. So it's a very, very good position. Lots of Java champions, lots of top visible speakers and book writers. They are in one of those community positions, like as I call, right? Then there's two other positions there that are more independent position, right? So for example, John here says, run my own agency, right? So that is, when you become more independent, there's two more independent positions that can usually be done parallel to those other positions, right? So, things like you become an independent person, right? So that's path number 4. You become independent, so you become like a freelancer or instructor or a consultant, right? So you become your own company, right? That's one possibility. Or path number 5 is you become an entrepreneur, right? Like John is saying, right? So you build your own company, you build your own agency, you're selling a product to someone else, right? And so those are the 5 paths: the people path, the technical path, the community path, right? Those 3 usually inside a company, and then the independent path and the entrepreneur path, right? So 5 main umbrella paths for you to grow beyond senior, right? And so all of those positions will give you more responsibility, more impact, and as such have the potential to give you a lot more money, right? Because that's one of the things we're going to discuss here: salary, right? Those positions can give you a lot more money. They're not easy positions, guys. They require you to go after more autonomy, more impacts. They require that you go and you focus on bringing a lot of impact. And for that, you may need to be a lot more responsible, for example, and get more responsibilities. All of those positions require different skills than our software development skills, right? So they require you to be able to be good communicators. They require you to be able to actually talk with people very well. They require you to have a deep understanding of the business, right? Because a lot of those positions have some component of sales, not the bad sales, like, oh yes, give you money, not that, right? But the sales that is kind of focused on the customer, right? And helping the customer have more results, having the customer have more impact, right? So all of those positions are like this, and so that requires you to do some kind of work like this, right? And for me, that's actually the title of this presentation here. I think that there's 3 main things that we can do, right, to achieve those positions, right? Is that one is have a technical skill. I put on the title here Java, but it does not need to be Java. It could be Java, it can be Jakarta EE, for example. It can be clouds, or it can be some very specific things like a language like Kotlin, for example, or it could be some more generic thing like I don't know. Containers would be more specific, right? But very very open thing like testing, right? Or software development life cycle, right? Whatever it is, right? Something technical will really help you to show the value of what you have, right? So something that you can focus on, something that people can associate you with, right? I was talking to a developer yesterday that he is interested in the security side, right? So that's like a technical thing that shows that you have some technical background, that shows that you're still a technical person. That technical focus, it's really really important, right? It does not need to be the only thing that you do, but the more people know what your technical focus is, the better for you. Okay. The second thing is open source, right? So open source is a great way for you to meet people. Someone, Jan talk about this, right? Because open source could be a good way, right, to use his time, right? And so open source is also a great way because open source shows your technical capabilities, allows you to meet communities. And open source has one thing that I think is very very important, right? I think that's it's probably one of the most important things that open source can bring you, is the whole idea that you get to talk with people they're smarter than you, right? So that's like Jen was saying, right? The other guy seems so smart, right? That comes from Joy's law. Joy's law is from Bill Joy, and one of the founders of Sun, one of the guys that wrote the Java specification, for example. So Bill Joy used to say that the smart, no matter how big you are, no matter who you are, the smart people never work for you, because because over there, right? This is his idea. Over there is larger than over here, right? So so out there is larger than over here. So doesn't matter who you are, the smart people work for someone else because over there is much much larger than right here, right? And so because of that, the best way for you to work with smart people is to go find them over there in the wild market space of idea, in the wild market space of technologies. And that's why open source is so important, because you can go where the big market is, right? So you can access the big market. So when you become part of that, you become part of this amazing group and opportunity that can really push your career forward outside of your company and also inside of your company, right? So open source is another great path for you to achieve one of those 5 beyond senior positions, right? And then the last thing I want to mention here, and then I'm going to go look at the question, right? So if you have not written the question for me yet, I see Andres did, David did, right, and John. So I'm going to go over all those questions right now, right? And so the last thing I want to talk about is community, right? Open source is one type of community, but I want you to broaden your idea of more communities, right? So community is something that we've been using as a way for us to meet people, for us to connect with people for, I don't know, thousands of years probably, right? I was a few days ago, I was in Romania and in Cluj-Napoca, right? And there I visit this very beautiful stone building that was built, I don't know, in the 1700s, I think. And over there was the Tailors Guild, right? It was the community of tailors, right? That would meet together to negotiate deals, to protect themselves, right? To help the city, So we've been connecting ourselves with like-minded people for a long time. So I think we should understand that this is very important, right? So when Jan says, for example, oh yes, the open source guys seem so smart, right? They are smart because they're part of a community, right? And so that's a great way for it. So if you do have a technical expertise, a technical focus, you participate in open source, you participate in communities, that's the 3 great things for you to do. That's going to build your visibility for you. It's going to build your reputation, and it's going to get you on the most amazing jobs in the market, right? So I think that's a few things that you guys can think about, a few things that you can work with, right? Because I think that's what we need to do, right? So with this background of those five paths, right? So I'm just going to repeat the five paths. Five paths. There is the people path, the management path, the tech path, where you become staff, principal, distinguished, right? The technical path, the community path, right, where you are the technical person in a non-technical area for a company, the independent path, where you are the product, right? You're selling yourself, and the entrepreneur path, where you build a product to sell, right? So those are the five main umbrella paths for you to grow beyond senior. And so if you follow those paths, you can grow your position, you can increase your salary, you can achieve more autonomy, you can achieve more trust, you can achieve more impact in the world, right? That's amazing things. And the way I think for you to do is three things: focus on a technology, right? Participate on open source, and number three, participate on communities, right? Those things will build your reputation, is going to build your visibility, will get you to a position where people want to work with you, right? Okay, with that background, I'm going to look at the questions now. And so if you just arrived here and you don't know why all those messages in the chat is, right? So what I want you to know is I want you to think about the biggest dream that you have, the biggest achievement that you want to make, and tell me what prevents you from achieving that. What is the thing what's the challenge? Why have you not achieved the biggest dream of your life, of your career, right? So tell me on the chat, because my goal here is to help out on those things, right? So, so Jan already, I'm just gonna go in the order here, right? I think that's easier for me to go in the order and gives you chance to keep adding to it, right? So if you want to add to it, feel free to do that, right? So here's the thing. So Jan says, stay healthy and having a clear mind, right? And keep interest in self-development, right? Why not open source, right? The other guy seems so smart. So Jan, I think that's, you said you were retired, and that's, and I totally agree that you keep doing the things that you love, right? You keep working on software development, you keep interacting with people. That really, really helps you to have a clear mind, to stay healthy, right? And so from my suggestion, in participating in open source, man, it's a great way, as I was saying, I was talking to the developer a few days ago, and he does open source, and he does open source because he loves it, right? And so he works on something in the business during the day. When he gets home, his hobby is to do open source, right? So he goes on and participates, and he does his own frameworks, and he does his own software, and doing this kind of things is amazing, right? Because open source is a great way for you to be fully autonomous, right? There's no one telling you what to do. There's no one forcing you to do the things you don't want to do, right? You can just choose what matters to you. You can just work on the things that are important for you, right? And that kind of thing, it gives you a lot of responsibility, because you're going to choose what needs to be done. And when you're able to be totally autonomous, you choose what needs to be done. You choose the important things that you're going to work on, right? That gives you, the highest responsibility that you can have, right? Because there's no one telling you, there's no customers, forcing you to do something. There's no manager, on your back, like, oh no, this is not ready yet, etc. So you decide, right? And so you understand the problem, you understand what needs to be done, you understand what you want to do, and then you focus on solving the problem. Man, this is such an amazing feeling, right? And so, yeah, and I would totally not be able to do this, Jan. And my suggestion to you, when you say, oh, the other guy seems so smart, right? So first of all, you have many years of experience. Man, if you're retired, that probably means that you have, I don't know, maybe 25, 30, 40 years of career, right? So that gives you a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding how to solve problems, a lot of skills. So go apply these skills wherever you want, Jen. Find the interesting project that you can work on. Many years ago, I was talking to one of the guys that he used to be the president of the open source initiative, and he was telling the story that because he works on open source, he did compilers in the past, out of that, right? So and so he's telling this story that his daughter she was a biologist, right? And so she was trying to record bats, right? And so, but the software that she was trying to do, Audacity, did not record, could not handle the files with the frequency of the bat's noise, right? The bat's, I don't know how you scream or whatever you call it, right? And so he got the project. He said, "I'm an open source developer. I've been doing this for a long time, right? So, I just went to take a look to see what it is." And so he found on the project where, he had like the frequency of the sound, and he just kind of increased it, and immediately it was working for his daughter, right? So that's the kind of thing that we have, right? It's a software he never saw before. He never worked with sound, but we have this focus, we have this vision. We understand how to look at problems. We understand how to look at code. So, Jan, there's so many amazing things. There's so many interesting open source projects out there. Find one that connects with you. It doesn't have to be enterprise. It doesn't have to be anything that you worked with before. It can be some fun thing, some interesting thing that you are interested in. It could be education. It could be healthcare. It could be whatever, right? And you have the knowledge, right? Actually, my friend here, Fabio Veloso, was telling me this other day that he finds amazing how, you go in, for example, Fabio was working on healthcare some time ago, right? And so he was saying that when, you go into healthcare and there's this very complex healthcare situation, right? And you as a developer, you're able to understand it. But then you explain what you're doing to the healthcare people, and they cannot understand what you're doing, right? And so that's the power that we have, Jan. So we understand problems, we understand processes, we understand how things work. And so go choose something that really connects with you, Jan. It could be a game, it could be education, it could be, whatever it could be health, it could be sports, right? It could be, whatever you want to do. Give yourself permission to go experiment. And by the way, everyone here that's not in Jan's situation, that you're still working and you want to participate in something, you want to do, give yourself this permission, right? Give yourself the permission to experiment. You actually become a better developer. Remember, software development, guys, is a soft skill, right? Software development, repeat this because lots of people don't realize this. Software development is a soft skill. It's a malleable skill that you can apply to lots of different things. So for you to become a better developer, you have to expose yourself to different places, right? So go do a desktop application, go do a mobile application, go do something in another programming language, go do something else. Because the more you work on other things, the better you become as a developer. And so give yourself this permission to go search and work on something that you love, that you're really interested in, right? So do you like soccer? Go do a soccer application, right? Go get involved in a soccer open source project, right? So, Vinicius Sanger, he's an evangelist from Amazon. I always remember his stories about, he likes to this day, he likes boat and surfing, right? So he went to do a software to manage his boat travels, right? He did it for himself. And then other people say, hey, no, this is awesome. Can I use it too? So lots of his friends start using it. And then eventually he actually sold to a company, right? That wanted to buy that software from him. So go give yourself the permission to do those kind of things, right? So, let's see here. So pretty much what I do, but not an official open source project, right? 40 plus years, and that's great, Jan. So I'll try to keep an eye. If you guys want to add anything I'm saying here, I'll try to keep an ad to the end of the chat here. I'll go back, but I'll go, yeah, so that's awesome, man. 40 years, Jan. This is such an amazing thing, man. It's like really, really awesome that you still have this in you. It's 40 years doing this, right? You still want to do it, right? So yes, don't go do those kind of things, but choose an open source project you're interested in. Go do that. That should be an amazing thing for you, and that's awesome, right? So Abinak says, after Amsterdam Java Group. So thanks, man, for being here. Awesome to see you again. Okay, so David, still an open source here. David asks how to search for interesting open source project, right? Any specific ideas, or just browse it to repository? So David, it's the thing here is the word interesting. right? That's the word interesting. It's you that define what's interesting. What's interesting for you is probably not interesting for me, and vice versa, right? So when you're going to look for interesting projects, you have to think about what interests you. Something interesting is something that interests you, right? There's lots of interesting projects, right? There's a lot of different projects. There's lots of projects that are important. There's lots of projects that are, they're visible. There's lots of projects that solve important problems. But what's interesting is what interests you. So you have to look for, David, what do you want? What are the things that you love? So, for example, I have mentees of mine that love mobile. So they want to do mobile apps. I have mentees of mine that love server side. They want to do big server side things, right? So you decide, man. That's the beauty of the amazing, amazing number of open source projects exists out there, right? You can even start your own if you want to. But it's amazing how. But here's the thing. I just mentioned one thing. You can start your own. The problem with starting your own is that you're going to be doing this alone for a long time. That's the problem. Right? So there's many open source developers out there that they have projects that lots of people use, and still they're the only one that develop it. Right? So be careful of starting your own projects. It might not be what you want, because if you want the community relationship, you want to work with other people, you want to have the connections, you want to work together. Starting your own project is not the best way, right? So go find a project that you want to work on. So find something that's interesting for you, David, right? And I don't care if it's small or big. Lots of people say, oh, because I want to do Spring, or I want to do, Jakarta EE, or no OpenJDK. I want to do these big projects. But the question is, why? Why you want to do? Oh, because I can get a job. Well, that could be a good way, right? To get a job by doing open source project. That's a good way. But honestly, if you're working on a project you were interested in and you become connected to that project, you're still going to get a job, right? But probably a job on something that you want to do, So you're not looking for hundreds of jobs. You look for one job, right? One amazing job. So that one amazing job can be on an open source project, right? It can be related to the open source project that you like. So, David, my issue to you is that go find a project that's interesting for you, something that you want to do, something that you like, but something that it's active. It's very frustrating to find an open source project where no one's participating, no one's doing anything. You cannot talk to anyone. The team does not exist, right? So it's kind of frustrating to do that. You could do it. It's open source anyway, so you could just go ahead and do it. But I think it's kind of frustrating because you're not going to be working for other people, right? So go find a project that's active, that people are working on. Even if it's just a few developers working on, that's not a problem, and go join those projects, because I think that's an amazing way. All right? Okay. I don't want to stay too long on one question, otherwise I'm not going to answer any more questions, right? So let's see here for John. John says, my career dream is to run my own agency, right? To have increased flexibility to meet the special needs of my family. My biggest challenge, I feel like my technical skills haven't gotten very dull. I spent 12 years in my last job where I functioned as a senior engineer, then cloud architect. My value to the company transitioned from my technical ability to my historical knowledge, right? Okay, John, look, let me start with the elephant in the room here, John. I don't care. I don't care about any of those tail things you're talking about, right? So you're being active. You're being, even though you're the historical knowledge, that's okay. It's not a problem. You said here before that you have, how many years of career you said, John? I think you said that, right? 20 plus years of career, right? So that's happened, right? 20 plus years of career, man. You've done it. You've done things, right? And you remember things. I was talking the other day to some friends of mine, and they were asking me about, the history of Java and things that happened. And we're just having a conversation at dinner, right? And said, man, you should give a talk about this, right? You know so much about what happened. You know so much about the story of Java, right? And so, yeah, but who wants to hear about this, right? So, but everyone wants to hear, right? That's the point, right? Everyone loves to hear this. So you get a lot of experience. You get historical, right? That's not a bad thing. But now you thinking that this is wrong, you thinking that this is bad, John, that's the problem. Because then you start second guessing yourself. You start not valuing what you have. You start not valuing the things that you do. Make sense? So, John, I would not worry about any of that. You want to build your own agency, you want to build your own company, you can do it, right? You don't need to be, especially because, look here, man, I'll be like, friend to friend here. Do you want to build a company? Do you want to make money by running your own business? The issue is getting customers. That's the game. To have a company, the game is getting customers, right? It's the game is not let me build some very cool, bleeding edge technology, whatever, because that doesn't build a company. What builds a company is having customers. So that's the thing, man. You have to think about what I'm bringing to the market. What can I do to really solve problems to someone, right? And so now my only issue, John, you can tell me more about your agency that you want, right? But here's the thing. The issue that I have when you talk about being an agency, so what do you want to do? An agency, it's an agent between people and customers, right? So that's what you want. Do you want to allocate developers into customers? So the problem that I see with that is that this brings very little value. There's lots of companies that do this, lots of business do this. Everyone charges per hour. This is a really low value thing. So my thing to you, John, is what is the big problem you can solve? What is the big value you can bring to your customers, right? You don't need to have a company with lots of people. You can be just you and bring lots of value for your customer. That's the goal, man. The goal for you to build your own business is to find a big enough problem that people are willing to pay lots of money for, and then build that thing. It doesn't need to be a software product. It can be a service product, right? But then offer that thing and get customers. That's the game, John. Don't be sidelined by other things. Focus on getting one customer. If you can get one customer, even while you're doing something else, you get one customer, man, that changes everything. That really changed your life, right? So instead of thinking about building an agency, try to get one customer to solve a really big problem for them. That's what you have to work on. You have to define what is the big problem that they want to have, right? And so if that's not enough, John, if that's not enough, join me, send me an email, right? And let's figure out a conversation that I can help you think about this big problem that you want to solve, right? Because that's the goal, man. The goal is finding this big problem, and then you can build that, right? So you can totally do this, John. So if you want to ask more questions here, but also message me, man. If you're not on my list yet, so for everyone that's not on my list yet, let me just do this here really quick, right? So if you go right now to https / code number 4.live. Okay, I'm putting here in the chat to code 4.live. You're going to get a form there. And on that form, you can put your name and email, and you're going to get an email from me. Okay? And from that on, I'm going to send you amazing career ideas, right? And so that's what I want for you. I want you to have amazing career, right? And so you're going to get an email from me, and you just reply to that email and say, hey, Bruno, I was in your Jakarta Tech Talk live stream, and I really need to talk to you. Tell me a little bit of what you want to talk, and let's figure out a way that we can have a conversation to solve, to go deeper on that problem. I'm going to do my best here, but of course, we can do, if you need more, I can have a conversation with you. Okay. All right. So, and John says that's great info. So that's great, man. Awesome. Now, one last thing for everyone here, if you want to be the true last path, right? Being independent and being an entrepreneur. If you want to do that, there is a very, very big probability that in your head, you're thinking about charging per hour. Okay? If you want to do independent, if you want to be a freelancer, or you want to do, a consultant or whatever, right? A contractor, instructor, whatever it is, or you want to do an entrepreneur like John, you want to build an agency, there's a big chance that you've been thinking about, I can charge per hour. My suggestion, don't do it. All right? Do not enter on a business that you charge per hour. I'm not saying that this business cannot work. It does work. I'm not saying you cannot make lots of money with that. It does. You make lots of money. Lots and lots of people make lots of money. But here's the thing: that's the low level of the freelancing and the consulting business, right? The low level is charging per hour, right? So you can do better than that. So now, if you start by charging per hour, you get on this mindset of charging per hour. If you say, okay, Bruno said to not charge per hour, and you start to figure out something else you can charge for, right? You can charge for the value you're bringing in. You can show the value in a better way. Then you're going to be a business that's much, much, much better than if you build a business with charge per hour, right? So don't try to figure out other ways. If you don't know how to, ping me. Let's talk about it, right? So do not charge per hour, right? Hey, Max. So good to have you here, man. Awesome. This is great. So Max is a contributor here to Jakarta and Jakarta EE, right? Max is also a coordinator of Java. So thanks a lot, Max. Great to be here with you. All right, so let's see the next one here. Andres says, my biggest challenge are my shyness and insecurity, right? So yeah, we talk so much about this, right, Andres? But I think you're fine, man. I think those things it's on your head. That's not the true reality, right? So because I told you this before, but I'm just kind of telling you publicly here, right? Because you mentioned public, right? So I love to be a developer advocate. I think right now I'm a staff engineer in a small company, but I gave myself that title. That's great, man. I love that you gave yourself that title. It's awesome, right? Because that means that you have flexibility, that you have autonomy in that company. And once you have that title in a small company, you can now go after and get that title in a larger company if that's what you want, right? So, I wonder if your insecurity is kind of showing you here when you say, I think they want to be a developer advocate. I think that's a good thing to do. Being a developer advocate is a great position. It's very autonomous, very flexible. Lots and lots of advantages there, but it also has its own problems, right? And one of the problems that it has is that it's a hard position to get, right? Because there's not a lot of those positions in the market, and most companies don't even understand what that is. So a developer advocate's position requires you to be working for a company that has developers as potential customers, because a developer advocates something to developers. So you have to be in a company that is targeting developers in some fashion, right? In some way. Most companies don't sell for developers. Let me just be honest with you. Most companies do not sell for developers. Most companies sell for managers, directors, VPs, C-level, right? Developers usually don't buy. Developers made a really, really bad market in most cases, right? Because developers, they don't want to spend money. They don't want to buy anything, right? They think everything expensive, right? And so they're willing to work extra time to solve a problem instead of buying a tool that can solve problems in minutes, right? And so they don't realize how much more expensive it is for their time than it is just to buy a tool, for example, right? So developers are hard to buy anything. So that's why most companies don't sell to developers. But developers usually are the ones that set the trend. They define the technology that needs to be bought. They tell the companies what they should use or they should not use. And so that's why developer advocates works on. The developer advocates for developers. So developers might choose the technology so the business guys can make a buying decision, right? And so I know I'm a developer, exactly, right? We all know exactly what I'm talking about here, right? Of course, right? And so that's why it's hard, right? It's hard for us to be for you to sell to develop, right? And so, but developers do make technical decisions. They do make future decisions. So I think that's an important situation to be aware of, right? So that's great. Okay, so with that said, for you to be a developer advocate, right? You don't say what your challenge is, right? Your challenge is China's insecurity, right? So here's the thing: you want to be a good developer advocate, Andres? You don't need to be extra vocal or not shy or anything like this, right? We're all. I mean, I've been a developer advocate for many years. and I'm very, very introvert, right? So Ed Cianaga is such a huge introvert, right? He said in a live that's kind of my YouTube channel, so you can go watch that if you want. But Edson said that he's so shy that these conversations that you have in events, he can't handle those conversations, so he practiced conversations and answers in his head while at home. So he is able to do those conversations on an event, right? So yeah, so a lot of us are very shy. So you don't have to be, to not be shy, right? So my advice to you, Andres, is ask questions. Just ask questions. You don't have to be the vocal guy. You don't have to be the one that speaks a lot, right? Just ask questions. Ask good questions, because once you ask good questions, you help people. And that's what I'm doing here. That's the whole thing I'm doing here today, is asking you questions, right? And you give me answers so we can have a conversation. So ask questions, Andres. I think that's a great way to do that. And by the way, this also helps with insecurity, because if you ask questions and people tell you things that you can solve, then you don't have to be extra secure, right? So that's a great way to do it, right? Okay, so let's see. Dave says, I'm stuck at senior position for some time already, and I'm wondering what can I do to actually move forward, right? Offers are rather limited, or when they are interesting, they're usually too hard for me. So I am where I am, right? Okay, good. So David, let me tell you this, man. Yes, beyond senior positions are very, very, very hard. Why? Because they're limited. The very few of them, right? In companies, right? We have example of companies that less than 5%, like 3 or 4% of the whole technical team are on beyond senior positions. Like, it's tiny. It's tiny. Especially on the beyond senior technical position. I mean, there's more managers. Manager is a beyond senior position. Right? There's more managers. There are more consultants. There are more freelancers inside companies, right? Than on the technical position, right? That's the one you were looking for, right? So the staff, the principal, the seniors, right? Those positions are hard. Hard not because they're difficult. Hard because there are very few of them, right? And because of that, David, it's harder for you to get someone to hire you into one of those positions. Usually they promote someone into those positions inside the company, right? So instead of hiring you. So my suggestion to you, Dave, the best way for you to do this is figure out a way inside your company right now to get a position like this, even if that's not a promotion, right? For example, Andres showed us the way here, right? I'm what did Andres say this? He said that where did he say that? Okay, I don't find it here, right? But Andres said something like that's okay. Yes, I found it here, right? So I'm a staff engineer, but I gave myself that title. So find a way, David. Do exactly what Andres did. Find a way to give yourself that title in whatever company you are in. Talk to your manager. Tell him that you're trying to grow and you love to be more responsible. And look, there's a point, guys. There is a reason why your company should promote you like this, right? Because look, there's certain things you got to do inside the projects that people need to listen to you. And so if you're a senior developer, the managers don't listen to you. The directors don't listen to you. The VPs don't listen to you because you're just a senior developer. Now, if you become a staff, then you're the same level as the managers. So now the director is going to listen to you. The manager is going to listen to you. If you become a principal engineer, right, you're the same level as the directors, right? So then VP is going to listen to you, right? The director is going to listen to you. Make sense? So you have more influence. You have more impact. So there is a case to be made inside your company that, you should have more impact. So now you have to show the validity of this impact, David. So try to get your company to promote you, even if inside your company that's not a salary promotion. It's just like Andres did, right? So I just gave myself that title. See if you can do that, David, and you start working on that level. Even if you don't have a promotion, start working on that level. Just put yourself, act as if you had the possibility of talking to managers and directors. Put yourself in that position. right? And so, because that's what companies are looking for, someone that's willing to do that, to take that position, to do those things. And so you can show in the market that you already do those things, even though you don't have the position right now. Okay, so I think that's what I would do, Dave, is kind of put yourself as much as possible. That's why participate on open source. That's why run your own business on the side can give you this, because if you run your own business, you're not a founder, you're not a developer anymore. You're a founder of a business, for example, right? So then you can run your business on the side, and that will give you a better position even inside your company. Okay, so make sure, Dave, that you can move right now where you are into this kind of responsibility, this kind of impact, even if just a little bit, even just part of your week, right? See if you can move into that position, because that's how you're going to show the market that you're ready to be hired by this position. Okay, and so and when you say interesting are usually too hard for me, man, that's just the hiring process broken. The hiring process is broken. So whatever they say on the position, on the offer, ignore. Put yourself there. Show your value. Show you're able to do that. Ignore whatever they say, because that's probably not true anyway. Okay. All right. Let's just see if there's more comments here. That's a funny thing. I started working for that company, Data Title, right? Then I asked the CTO how I should sign my emails. He asked me for suggestions. Yeah, that's perfect, right? When I was at Sun, Andres, my boss, I told my boss, what position, because he was, my boss was, at some for some period at Sun, was a good friend of mine. His name is Simon Phipps, right? He was the chief open source officer at Sun. And so when I started working for him, I asked him, so what is my title? He said, put it whatever you want, right? And so, yeah, that's good. It's good that your boss is giving you that flexibility, Andres. And that's great, man. And you say, fit the things you're doing, that's perfect. That's what you want. You want to show the markets that's what you're already doing, right? So, that's great. I love this. I love this. It's amazing, Andres. That means that he trusts you. And look, you're talking directly to the CTO, right? This is a small company. You're talking directly to the CTO. So who talks directly to the CTO? It's a director, right? So I think, Andres, you should be principal engineer, not staff, right? Because you talk directly to the CTO, you are at the director level, I think, from what you just told me, right? So maybe that could be your next promotion. Okay, so yeah, it's good to see you. I'm starting in Java's group. So Pedro says, my biggest challenge is accepting mistakes. I spend a lot of time trying to cover all possibilities. I think that if I expose myself more, make more mistakes, I'll gain more confidence and improve. However, my fear is how negative my image will be within the company until I gain that confidence. How do I deal with this? Have you made many mistakes? Oh, yes, Pedro. I've made lots and lots and lots. I make mistakes all the time. I just had a meeting with my mentees just a few days ago after the JFall event. And I was talking to them all the mistakes I did during the event, at the event, right? I made so many mistakes, Pedro. Yeah, so no, I don't think that mistakes are a problem. I honestly don't think mistakes are a problem, right? So, the more you're doing things you don't know, the more mistakes you're going to make, and the more you're going to grow, right? So I don't think mistakes are a problem. I think that the problem, here's the thing, right? So everything you told me shows that you don't want to make mistakes. You're afraid of making mistakes. So you try to cover all your possibilities, right? So you're afraid of making mistakes. But the first sentence you told me, it's more indicative. You say, my biggest challenge is accepting mistakes, right? So that's a problem, man. That's a problem, because if you don't accept that you make mistakes, because I know you make mistakes, I can guarantee you that you've made lots and lots of mistakes in the last week, right? If you have not, it just means you're not doing anything. So I'm sure you made lots of mistakes, but if you don't accept them as mistakes, if you try to push them as success, or if you try to lie to yourself, or even worse, lie to other people that all the mistakes you made were actually success, that's a problem, because that's a mentality thing, right? You start trying to hide the wrong things that you did, right? And so that's more worrisome, Pedro, than the fact that you're afraid of committing mistakes and that you try to protect yourself, right? That you're trying to cover all the base and you try to look all the things, you don't expose yourself too much. But here, look, we all make mistakes, man, all the time, right? And owning our mistakes, it's a sign of maturity. It's a sign of growth, right? It's a sign of confidence. Confidence does not come from not making mistakes. Confidence comes from accepting our mistakes that we make. Accept that we're all human beings, right? We make mistakes. And here's the thing, man. Mistakes are not a problem if you own them. That's perfect, Andres. Here's the thing, Pedro. Look, we are using AI all the time now, right? That's what you're doing all the time. We're using AI all the time. And here's the thing. AI, it's terrible. It makes mistakes all the time. It's like it's crazy how many mistakes AI makes. Even if I ask AI to do very simple things, and I just fix my grammar on this text, right? It comes back with changes in the text that was terrible. It just made the text worse, right? So with simple things, the bad thing the AI does is writing text, and it still writes crappy text. Think about this. And that's the world we're living in, right? We're living in this world that we use AI for everything, and AI makes lots and lots of mistakes, and we don't care, right? So Pedro, you should not be putting yourself into such high standards that you never make mistakes, man. Own your mistakes, right? So realize that you're doing mistakes all the time, and that's okay. Most of our mistakes are not catastrophic. And that's why we do testing. That's why we do CI/CD. That's why we have testing environments. That's why we do canary deployment, right? That's why we do all those things. We have this huge apparatus in our software development lifecycle that's all made to catch mistakes. And so it's all made so we can innovate. There's no innovation without mistakes. There's no innovation there's no moving fast without breaking things, right? So that's why we build this whole apparatus to catch the mistakes before they become dangerous, before they turn into a problem. And even then, we still do things that like the rover in Mars that just destroyed itself by a mistake, a software mistake, right? It's like we still do that, and I think this is millions of dollars were just wasted, right, because of that. And so and there's still worse mistakes than that, right? So man, yeah, don't fall in this trap, right? Don't fall on this trap. There's your negative image will only come if you start hiding things, if you start lying to people, right? Confidence, on your mistakes is confidence, right? So that's not it's not going to be negative to your image, Pedro. I can guarantee this. All right. Okay. So David already answered the open source project, right? So all right. I don't see any more questions here, right? So you have 30 seconds to ask more questions, or I think we're about we're on the hour here, right? And so I can see lots and lots of people that join us here later. So if you have any questions still, it's the last chance to ask questions, so I can still say something. But I think that's amazing that you guys are here. So while you're thinking about your last questions, let me quickly give you a gift here, right? Because thanks, Pedro. Thanks a lot, man. Let me quickly give you a gift. How about that? Right. So all right. So let me just do this here. And I wrote a book called The Developer Career Master Plan, right? And I wrote this book with Heather Vancouver. Heather Vancouver is the head of the JCP, the best, one of the most important organizations in the Java world, one of the most important organizations in the software world, right? Is the organization that defines the Java standard, right? So it's very, very important. So I wrote that book with her, and that book helps you do all the things you're talking about here. Helps you with open source, helps you building your company, helps you with confidence, right? Helps you with learning things, and helps you with mistakes. It helps you. Everything we talk about here is in the book somehow, right? So with that, so let me just show you this then. Oh, come on, where is it? Okay, here. All right, so let me just share with you guys here. And so that's the QR code for the book, right? So if you go on this page right there, and I can just type here, right? So actually is the HTTPS career master plan.dev. Okay, career master plan.dev. Or this URL there is on the website, java.mn/career master plan. This also works, right? So, go there right now. There's going to be a form, name and email. You can just put your name and email. Then I'm going to send you a book. So there's two things going to happen when you do this. One, you're going to get an email from me with the book. So get a book for free. It's the first chapter of the book. It talks about learning. It probably talks a little bit about mistakes, Pedro. And the second thing that is gonna happen, that you're gonna get an email from me with the book, right? So if you don't receive my emails yet, that's my newsletter. You're gonna start receiving it. So you're gonna have what I think is the most interesting career newsletter in the industry. It's not me saying. There's lots and lots of people that tell me this all the time. So I should put some testimonials there so you guys can trust me on this, right? But I was talking to Gertchen the other day. Gertchen is from Azul. He's the leader of the Amsterdam JavaScript group, and he was saying, Bruno, you have so much amazing insights in your newsletter. So yes, so I think you should go and register for this immediately. But more important than this, you're going to receive an email from me. So if there's any question that we didn't answer, right? Then you can just reply to me on my email, and I'll help you out, whatever it is, right? Okay, so while you guys are doing this, Andres has a question there, and Andres says, one day I was working as a company in Brasilia, right? Brasilia is the capital of Brazil. That's awesome, man. As an external consultant, I was given a terminal with root access for something in production. I performed a Q command. People started to shoot out that system were down. I had brought down that database, right? I want to bury myself, right? The CTO offered me a job later the same day. Yes, it was about 10 years ago. Yes, exactly, right? So, making mistakes, guys, is not what's going to destroy your career, right? Not owning the mistakes is what's going to destroy your career, right? Even if they're massive mistakes, if people trust you, they want to work with you. Exactly, right? So, build trust and not this image that you never make mistakes, because that image is false. The image that you never make mistakes, it's false because it does not exist, right? Okay, so thanks, Andres. Great story, man. Amazing that. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And so I think that's it. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. That's awesome. Thanks for the Eclipse Foundation. Thanks for inviting me to being here. It's amazing to be here with you. Anytime, I'd love to work with you, anything that you guys are doing. And for everyone here, you guys should join the Eclipse Foundation. Participate in open source projects. There's a lot of amazing open source projects there that's going on. So Java, the Brazilian JavaScript group, the Brazilian JavaScript Youth Society, we are part of the Eclipse Foundation. We are part of the Jakarta EE study group. We help out with the specifications. I think you should do that too, right? So it's amazing for you. It's amazing for your career. Okay, so thanks, Ronaldo. Thanks, Simon.
Thank
Thanks,
you so
John.
much.
Thanks, Andres.
Thank you so much, Bruno,
Thanks, Buddha.
for
Thanks,
this
Pedro.
amazing presentation. Okay, I think we do have one more question in the question tab. I don't know if you had the chance to take a look.
Okay, I didn't see that. So
it's no more. Oh, no.
In the question
No,
box
no.
or where?
Yes, no, I think it was erased, so no worries. I saw one earlier, but I think
someone put a question in the question box and erased that later. Sorry, guys, I was just looking at the chats, right? So I said this in the beginning that you should ask the question in the chat, so I'm glad. Okay, so what is this? You just put a link there?
Yes, because I would like to share with the audience. Thank you so much for all the comments and participation in the talk. If you guys are interested in presenting Jakarta Tech Talk, please feel free to fill up the form. We would like to hear from you. So, final reminder, we have a Jakarta EE survey that is open, and we look forward to your participation. Well,
David,
and
where's the link to that? Let's put in the chat the link to the survey.
oh, it's in
So,
the call to action. It's already there.
oh, it's not okay.
Um,
You
yes,
know, so look, this opportunity here to be here, giving a talk, a tech talk here for Jakarta. You know, that's what you should do, Andres, for example, right? So Andres said here that he wants to be a developer or advocate, right? So come here, Andres, propose something to be here. You know, everyone that works with me, I know Ronaldo, for example, works with me. So Ronaldo, go ahead, man, fill out the form and submit. So come here, talk to them, right? So Pedro, you know, all of you guys that want to participate, you know, Jan, that's retired, right? So man, come here, share your story, share all the things you did for 40 years, right? So yes, go right now to this Eclipse form, right? This last link on the chat right now, and submit something. Tell them that you'd like to talk.
yes, please. And well, if it doesn't look that we have more questions, so please feel free to contact us for the Jakarta talks. And thank you so much, Bruno, for this amazing presentation and for sharing your expertise and time with us today,
Thank you so
and to
much.
all the attendees. So thank you so much. I hope you
Thanks
have
so much
a
for hosting
wonderful
me.
day and your time in Europe as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for hosting me here. It's awesome. And now I'm gonna shut down, pack my stuff, and go across the street because I'm gonna go to the Lithuania, to the Vilnius Java group here in Lithuania, and give another conversation there with them. So if you're here in Lithuania and you want to come here, it's still time for you to come, for you to have a conversation. If not, I'll go next to Portugal. I'm going to be in Coimbra and Lisbon, and then I'm going to go to Dublin to the Dub Jug, and before I go back to Brazil. So if in any of those places you can come to see me. If not, just shoot me an email with your questions and let's have a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
all. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks a lot.